Welcome back to the Infinite Jungle. On today's episode, I have with me a very special guest, the big boss of Galaxy, CEO of Galaxy, Mike Novogratz. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm excited.
We are going to talk about a question that has been confounding this industry, particularly traders and investors, and that is the underperformance of ETH. ETH has been underperforming persistently for over a year now. BTC and SOL have been reaching all-time highs in 2024 and in 2025. ETH still a far cries away. What do you think are the main motivating factors for ETH's persisting underperformance?
So first, my disclaimer that you've forgotten more about Ethereum than I know. I did invest early when it was just about $1. And so ETH is close to my heart. Listen, Ethereum is still the largest Web3 blockchain, and it's a very important blockchain. It has the most developers. It has the most people engaged. It's got my favorite guy in the entire crypto universe as its, founder and sole kind of heartbeat in Vitalik. I think Vitalik is just a world-class kid. He's not a kid anymore. I guess he's an adult, but I met him when he was a kid. And so I think we should be careful that we, push ETH to the side. Listen, in some ways, ETH is going through this awkward adolescence in that as we move to a real decentralized world, you needed speed of processing with decentralization and security. That famous triangle that people used to talk about in 2017, Ethereum has really been plotting towards. And, now you've got an L2 ecosystem with things like Base or Optimism, Linea coming with ZK, that is got pretty much the same capacity for processing as Solana. You could probably tell me if I'm right or wrong on that, but it seems
I don't actually know about that.
It seems that we're getting close.
But it is a lot more scalable with L2s. Ethereum has more transaction
we're building
throughput.
this ensystem. Now, so again, I think we'll see. The biggest reason I think for outperformance is like Gensler leaned on ETH, right? He was suing consensus. It was ETH's not a security or not a security, and only got pushed at the very end when he was forced to, approving the ETF. And so you had some regulatory pressure on Ethereum. You also had narrative, right? So Bitcoin has a really interesting narrative right now in that people wanted digital gold and the governments of the world just spending too much money. And so that's the narrative that took off. That got Larry Fink involved. It got central banks involved. People talking for the Bitcoin strategic reserve or strategic stockpile. Yeah. And so this narrative of Bitcoin as digital gold really grabbed hold.
And it's simple and concise.
Yes.
But what is the investment narrative for ETH?
Well, the ETH narrative is always going to be, we're going to build the decentralized web. That is the investment narrative. And the reality for all crypto ecosystems is narrative brings an enthusiasm, and enthusiasm creates value. And why smaller ecosystems persist is because they have some little narrative that keeps their participants engaged. And you look at something, I always pick on Cardano, and mostly I get yelled at. But I was wrong. I was wrong in that I thought lots of these ecosystems would go away. And they didn't. And I have a very different view on this now. Like, it's the libertarian view. If people want to be part of the XRP army, let them. That's their decision. And XRP has a narrative, and they like it. It's, in some ways, all of these ecosystems have a little bit of store of value in them. People are storing their value there. And the narrative that gets people there is often not store of value, right? Most of the market cap of Ethereum right now is store of value, but what got people there is a narrative about this is going to be Web3. And so I think you're going to have to see that narrative, some wins in it, to start re-engaging. Listen, I think the Vitalik ETH Foundation thing is a little bit of a FUD. People are looking for excuses. What I'd love to see, and I think you will see, is the foundation shouldn't. They should continue to take the high road. One thing about Vitalik the entire time is he's taken the high road, right? They should be a research organization. And organizations like a Consensus or others that are engaged should be the advocates.
And Consensus, Joe Lubin made a statement in light of all that drama saying that Consensus would step up more, that it's not just Ethereum Foundation's burden to market the Ethereum ecosystem, it's up to all the ecosystem participants, of which Galaxy is one participant.
And we've got you.
That's true, and this podcast, as well as the coverage I do. But any other plans this year in 2025 for Galaxy to make bigger waves, step up for the Ethereum ecosystem?
So let me give you like a metaphor of what's happening right now in AI. So we've had this whole, DeepSeek came in and we're like, oh my goodness, inference is going to be so much cheaper and it's going to happen so much faster. And so the expectation now is stuff's going to be built on AI and you're going to have this explosion of application, right? Ethereum kind of needs that. We've waited. We now have scalable, safe platforms to build. And so what's going to create new narrative is stuff that we start using. Mm-hmm. And what's stopped the whole crypto space from really fulfilling its dream, right? Like, why did I invest in Ethereum is because I literally showed up at Joe Lubin's office at Consensus and saw all these people plotting a decentralized revolution. They were talking about how are we going to disintermediate music? How are we going to disintermediate finance? How are we going to disintermediate tickets? It's insane in some ways that was 2014, 15. When did Ethereum launch? 15?
2015.
Yeah, so it was 15. 9 years later, I was literally talking about decentralized tickets in 2016. I have a great story. I got a call from Adam Clayton from U2. I thought it was a prank call. And he wanted to talk about, in essence, NFT tickets, decentralized ticketing. And everyone didn't like Ticketmaster. And 9 years later, we don't have decentralized tickets. Lots of people have tried and failed. Building decentralized systems on top of these blockchains has proven harder than we thought. And we need to see social graphs take off. We need to see some of the applications work. And that will be the trigger for the new narrative of, oh my goodness, this is going to be the base layer of trust.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's Ethereum's main mission, right, is to be the base layer of trust for Web3.
And it doesn't mean that people aren't building. I think people are still working on those. RWAs and NFTs in particular are real leading use cases on Ethereum where companies, non-crypto native companies, the likes of BlackRock, the likes of these big financial institutions are building on Ethereum. However, I will say that on the topic of Ethereum dominating the decentralized web narrative, there has always been kind of smaller ecosystems, like you said, the store of value, but it does seem Solana in particular has uniquely really started to take away mind share from Ethereum and enter into as by far one of the most legitimate competitors I've seen
100%.
For the decentralized web narrative. Do you foresee that narrative? Is this kind of the beginning of the end for Ethereum to continue to be the dominant platform for the decentralized web?
This is complicated stuff, and you don't know when lightning strikes and there's new narrative. Like, part of Solana's success is we helped redistribute it from the FTX estate in lots of different hands and lots of non-traditional crypto hands, right? So institutions and hedge funds, and all of a sudden you have, again, in one really crass way, you can think of all of these crypto ecosystems as, my mom used to sell Tupperware.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if you guys are all too young for Tupperware, but it was one of the first multi-level marketing businesses. So you get people and they sell it and then the next person sells it, right? How does the narrative go viral? It goes viral by people telling people. In Bitcoin, it's called orange pilling. Right? Ethereum should have its own version of what an orange pill is, right? You've got to bring people into the community. And you bring people into the community because you have a reason, not just price. Price helps a lot, but it's narrative. And so what Ethereum needs to do, because it knows its purpose, it needs to create narrative around that purpose where it's starting to win and where it's starting to be used. Like, listen, the biggest, I think, delta change in crypto usage between today and 2 years from now is going to be stablecoins. I'm convinced stablecoin and money market, RWA money market stablecoins funds are going to explode. And what chains are they going to be on, right? Justin Sun is investing with, the Trump family. He's got right now one of the more valuable chains because he owns all the nodes, right? He makes a fortune because he's got a chain that's cheap and fast and people use. It's not decentralized, or not very decentralized at all, at least from my understanding. And so if I'm the Treasury and I'm doing stablecoin legislation, I don't know if I'm going to want my stablecoin. Because
I don't think
if you're a
decentralization
government,
really matters.
if you're a government, you've got to be careful about the sanctity of your currency. And so it'll be very interesting to see what regulations come out on where stablecoins can exist. Right? Right now, they're all unregulated. Right? And so if it's Tether or even USDC or you name it, they're unregulated. They go where they want to go. I think that could change. I think governments are going to say, wait a minute, this is a strategically important industry, and we're going to really want to understand who's running them, what chains they're working on. And so we'll see. It'll be very interesting, but Ethereum needs to be a place that gets a tremendous amount of stablecoin volume, because that's, I think, the next use case that people are going to understand.
But to the point that the stablecoins that are issued on Tron, it doesn't really require a ton of decentralization. There is reason to believe that governments may not want to use such a public blockchain like Ethereum. What do you think is Ethereum's role in taking a lot of that market share from the stablecoin market? I mean, one I was thinking about was one of the executive orders I think that Trump recently signed was around banning CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which may lean more to stablecoins.
There's a
having
difference
more of a public market
between, and I think most people in crypto are against CBDCs because it gives the government too much information. Right? There's this balance between our privacy and the government having the right to stop things like kiddie porn or North Korean terrorist financing or whatever these big evil things are. And it's a very complicated debate. Like I always say the same thing with cars. We have the technology to put a Wi-Fi connection into every car, and the moment you go over the speed limit, you start getting a ticket. Right? It's very easy technology. We can do it tomorrow.
Right.
It's not the way we do things in America or most of the world. You have to catch me speeding. I like to speed. I used to have like a fuzzbuster and a CB radio. This is way back in the old days to try to like outfox the police.
We also now even have cameras everywhere that could potentially just track it every single time it happens, but the cameras aren't.
Right. What are we going to do with our money? Are we going to have the government see exactly what you spend your money on, where it goes? Or are we going to have a system where the government has to catch you? And we've got places like Chainalysis and all these places that are set up to try to catch the bad guys. I think that's the preferred system. But all those decisions are going to get made in the next few years. I think the libertarian instinct and the Republican instinct was get away from CBDCs. That's way too much government interference. But I don't think it's going to go all the way to the other side and say, hey, we've got a Cold War going on with China, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. I had a lunch with H.R. McMaster, who used to be the national security chief, and it was shocking how bearish he was on that relationship.
On the China-U.S. relationship?
Well, just on the hawkishness that the U.S. is going to have. Listen, Trump's first few forays with Xi have been pretty positive, and so maybe we have a thawing at the top. But in the security apparatus, there's just a deep skepticism that I think you're going to see show up in crypto even. And so Ethereum, we get back to your original question, needs to be part of that solution. And so, again, I think it's stablecoins, it's NFTs, it's DeFi, but it really has to. There needs to be a time when the narrative flips about why it's so important again. Because right now, you're right, Solana has momentum.
Solana has momentum. The narrative for Bitcoin is very easy and simple for investors to be able to grasp.
Let me ask you a simple question. So we've all, for 10 years, talked about zero-knowledge proofs.
Yes.
What application do you use in your life where zero-knowledge proofs matter?
ID checks.
But have you used one yet?
With zero knowledge proofs? No. But I know of people building those apps.
So again, we have these theoretical awesome things. Zero knowledge proofs are going to be so important in so many ways. And 5 years ago, I talked about all these things that are going to happen. None of it's happened yet. And so we now have the things necessary.
Yes.
We have people starting to understand how blockchains work, not completely, but starting. We have decentralized, scalable, fast, and safe blockchains. This is the 2 to 3 years where I need to see ID checks, where I need to see, at my bank when I want to guarantee your mortgage payment, because people ask me to do that if they're my cousins or kids, and the bank says, send me your whole balance sheet. And I was like, I don't want to send you my balance sheet. You just need to know I have enough to guarantee it.
Yeah.
A perfect pace for ZK.
Yeah.
Right now, I pull up my iPhone or go on the internet. I've never used ZK.
I cannot stress that enough, that in the next 2-3 years, crypto as an industry really needs to prove that the only use case for blockchains are not just speculation. It's not just meme coins. With the regulatory kind of backing that we have, the better regulatory environment that we have under Trump, it's going to be a pivotal time for crypto to have these applications.
So one intuition I had was maybe people who had real companies not new startups, but people that had things to lose, didn't want to launch and build on top of blockchains because they were so scared that they're going to get, blackballed at banks or cited by the SEC, security token, utility token, and it just wasn't worth the risk. And with the framework we're going to get, which really I think is going to be a framework of just the primary thing I think with the new SEC is going to be disclosure. Is it disclosed? I mean, if you think about even the Trump meme coin, you can say what you want about it, but it was disclosed. This is the selling schedule. This is who owns it. Like, buyer beware, right? That is a libertarian Republican approach, and that's going to be the approach of this SEC, as opposed to the paternalistic approach that Gensler, hey, you're not smart enough to buy this. The hell are you telling me I'm not smart enough to buy it, right? And so listen, if I was in charge, I don't think I'd be all the way on the left or all the way on the right. I think there's probably a happy medium, but I think we're going to pivot way to just disclosure. And so there's going to be a real chance for people to try to pull off interesting applications. And if in 2 years I'm sitting in this chair and there are no applications, it doesn't mean our industry goes away. It means it's going to be an industry for store of value, payments, and speculation. And let's not knock speculation, right? Sports betting is a great business. Casinos are a great business. Lotteries are a great business. Like, there's gold in them there hills. People love to speculate. And I'm not saying, listen, I would not have got into this industry. I got into this industry because I sat in that consensus office and I was inspired by all these ideals of like, we're going to take it to the man. Then I was like, wait, I am the man. But
you come from traditional finance.
But that was really this idea that you could cut out the middleman in so many industries. And I pray that happens, and it's crypto's time to make it happen.
I know that we are going to be able to notice when that narrative starts shifting, when we have these applications launching on chain that are bringing non-crypto native users on chain. We're having gaming apps, we're having decentralized social media, we're having these zero knowledge proofs that you can just pull up on your iPhone. Those are kind of the indicators of the narrative shifting of real building happening. As a trader, are there any technical TA analysis that you're looking in the markets to pinpoint this is where the trend turns for ETH?
Well, let me just tell you, we haven't had it yet. You'll know when the ETH Bitcoin chart turns, right? We're trading at 30 right now. It hasn't turned. Listen, ETH's outperforming today. It doesn't take a lot for all of a sudden. Listen, I would say one thing. Sentiment is unbelievably bearish. And so usually when sentiment gets this bearish, it's very dangerous to be short. And we're not short. We're still long ETH. We have an index we manage to, and we're right at index. I haven't gone overweight yet because I haven't seen a big enough reversal. Again, why did Solana go from 190, 180 pre inauguration to whatever 240 today? Simple, like meme coins exploded, and they launched Trump and Melania, and That got people excited. I mean, again, if you were honest with people and you said, we know President Trump is going to win the election and there's going to be an amazing landscape for crypto, almost nobody I know other than Brad Garlinghouse, and give him credit, would have said XRP is what you should buy. And XRP has been by far the best buy. And so why? Because people had given up on it and no one owned it. And he's got a group of people that, for reasons even sometimes the CEO doesn't understand, who really love that token.
Do you think?
And you can say it's not decentralized, and it doesn't matter. There's a group of people that like that token.
And it has really worked out for XRP. The group of people, the strong diehards, as well as a central leader really pushing it on the hill, Brad Garlinghouse. On Solana, you've got a very strong foundation, a very strong leader at the face, Anatoly. You mentioned that you are very proud of Vitalik, but Vitalik takes a very different approach, similar to Bitcoin. Do you think that the leadership in the Ethereum Foundation needs to be more centralized, needs to be more hard-hitting for ETH to succeed?
I think what I like so much about Vitalik is he cares about the long game, not the short game. He cares about the revolution. Like, he could be the richest guy in crypto if he wanted to be, and he's not. Right? I remember he gave away all that Doge. Was it Doge he gave away? Or
I think there was some kind of a social, a donation. Yeah. There was like a natural disaster.
$1 billion he gave it to like India.
There was some.
The
really
guy, he's just a baller.
Or something.
I mean, he really is just a Chad. And I think Ethereum thinks they were first, and they're doing this the right way, and they're building towards a revolution. And I'm not discounting the other ecosystems. Like I said, I was talking to the woman who runs the Solana Foundation. I like Anatoly. I think they're doing great things. But I think the Ethereum playbook is different.
It is.
And it is, we're going to build this thing the right way, and we believe in it, and we're still the biggest, and we were first. Of smart contract blockchains, at least. And, they got a lot of great stuff, if you look at, Coinbase chose to build on Ethereum. Linea is coming, right? Optimism. There's a lot of smart developers that are
Deutsche
using
Bank is going to be launching on Ethereum.
And so I would not, again, full disclosure, we own Bitcoin the most, Ethereum the second most, Solana the third most. And, that, of course, could change if we change our weightings, and that's based a little bit on market size. It's based a little bit on volume and volatility. But I don't think I'm not part of the Ethereum is dead culture. I'm just not.
One last final question for you, Mike, and thank you so much for the time again. Question: you said we hold Bitcoin the most, ETH second, SOL third. When you think about the narrative that ETH is going for, decentralizing the web, the narrative that Bitcoin is going for, digital gold, look out, like, say, 20 years, the market size, the market cap of Bitcoin in relation to ETH, in relation to SOL, I mean, where do you think it plays out? Does it overtake?
I'm just not that smart.
How does the
I can do gold at gold's 17, 18 trillion.
Okay.
And I think gold can go higher. And so there's a whole lot of room between where Bitcoin is now and where gold is. Okay. And so there's so much runway that to try to pinpoint it, I don't know. Listen, the biggest stocks in the world are worth, what, $3 trillion? That used to be $1 trillion. And so 17 trillion. Why is gold worth more than Apple, Google, the Mag 7, gold's worth more. Makes no sense, right? You can take all the gold in the world and literally it's a 30-meter cube. And if you think about what that cube is, it's a blockchain. It's, hey, this little chunk of the cube is owned by China. This little chunk is owned by my wife in her jewelry. This little chunk is owned by the USA, right? If you put it all back together like a Rubik's Cube, it's where we're storing wealth. And so it's just a concept. Bitcoin is the same thing. We are storing our hard-earned wealth in this community, in this technology, but it's just a ledger. It's like that Rubik's Cube of gold. You've got your little piece of it. Where the equities, are income producing and they're vibrant companies. And for whatever reason, we've decided we're going to invest more value in something that we think is stable that we can just store things in than in companies that are vibrant and doing things. And maybe that changes at one point, but right now that's the paradigm. And so, again, could Ethereum be bigger than Bitcoin? Of course it could. Do I think it will in the next 5 years? No, I don't.
But I hear you on the point that the benchmarks we have right now of gold's current market cap, or like the internet's current value, is not really the same benchmark that we might put Bitcoin and Ethereum up against, because people's values change and the value that people put into gold change. Perhaps it changes with digital gold.
The biggest thing that changed in my mind in the last 4 or 5 years, and I think in markets' mind, is community was never an input to valuation, right? You bought Pepsi Cola because you thought a lot of people bought Pepsi. Warren Buffett used to say, "I won't stop until there's hot, cold, and Coke," right? And so there was a how much am I selling? What are my margins? That was how we did valuation. Or there was momentum trading. What crypto has given us, and it took me a while to get this, and I think XRP is the perfect example. It's community, the XRP army. And I remember I used to laugh when I would make, and they weren't even negative comments. They were mildly negative comments. I would literally get just attacked on my Twitter, or now my X. Literally at times even death threats from the Cardano community. They really didn't like me. And it got me thinking that these communities are really, really possessive. It's why you have more crypto tattoos than equity tattoos. It's why there are these nicknames, right? Again, orange pilled, and there are these cultures.
Yeah.
That has permeated into lots of investing. Right? We've got meme stocks now that we never had. If you think about Tesla was the first big meme stock. Everyone said, oh, the valuation. People wanted to be part of Team Elon, part of Tesla, part of that culture. And for months, every analyst said, it doesn't make any sense. It's more than everything else combined. And then you'd get some crazy math. We all missed, no, it was just community. Community as an input to value has stayed a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm not bold enough to say it's a permanent change in how we look at investing. But man, oh man, it's at least last 5 years, semi-permanent change. And, it's going to be something to really follow carefully. And you see it with memes. Even.
Yeah.
Like, the hat stays on. Poor Whiff got knocked around yesterday. But, like people, memes are perfect because there's no economic value. We know that. And quite frankly, there's not even often a understanding that they're going to be sustainable. There's been a few that have been, right? Doge has lasted, and Pepe has lasted. That was the big debate: is Dog with Hack going to be in that pantheon of?
Is Trump and Melania going to be in that pantheon?
But that input, different magnitude to different assets, is now an input.
Right.
And it never used to be.
We might not have the apps yet, but the change in mentality for investors making this decision with the input of community is something this crypto industry has spearheaded.
100%.
We're changing the minds of
100%
traditional financial investor. Our apps might not be here yet, but
it
the
almost,
ethos
to an
is here.
To an old guy, and I am actually 60 years old, so I qualify as an old guy. I get literally Social Security in 4 years. The idea that that's true is really, you got to shake your head and say, that can't be true, right? But it's real. And I used to have people say, crypto's so important. And people would say, well, why? And again, I keep waiting for the use cases to say, this is why it's so important. And right now, people believe it's important, therefore it's important. It's a crazy shift. It's that community. I want to be with like-minded people around the world cheering for something.
It's as simple as that.
Yep.
And it feels as though you're putting the wagon before the horse, but it's not. This is the way things are playing out.
Right now. You're right.
That.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mike.
I survived your podcast. I was so nervous.
Okay, wait, question. Did you know we had an Infinite Jungle podcast before I asked you to come on to this show?
Yes, I watch
You
it.
did?
I watch it.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
That's why
Amazing.
I was nervous.
Well,
you know about 30 times more than Ethereum than I do, and thought she was going to start asking me technical questions, and I was going to have to.
No, based on your background, I knew you would be the
Don't ask
perfect.
him a technical question.
No, well, I knew you would be the perfect guest to talk about the underperformance of ETH and this broader vision. So thank you so much, Mike, for the insight. And thank you to everyone who is listening to this episode of The Infinite Jungle. This is the first guest episode that we have on for season 2, and we have so many more guests coming on to talk about what Ethereum needs to really turn the tide. So please stay tuned for more episodes coming out for season 2, Infinite Jungle. We are signing off from the concrete jungle that is New York City. In your explorations of the infinite jungle that is Ethereum, stay safe out there. I need to remind you to please refer to the disclaimer linked in the podcast show notes and note that none of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice, an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by Galaxy Digital or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities.